all the responsibilities under the Act. So there is no ambiguity in that sense. Let's move on to the next definition, which is your real estate agent. So I'm sure everybody has heard of property agents. Property agents are the mediators who will charge a commission on whenever, like they are the mediators between the seller and the buyer of the property. So similarly, like even under RERA, a real estate agent is any person who acts as an intermediary in sale or purchase of units in real estate projects. So this will cover your brokers, dealers, even there are like online platforms, like No Broker, 99 Acres, not 99 Acres, but like 99 Acres is not running its own agency, but there are platforms which do that too for facilitating real estate transactions between the buyer and the seller. So these mediators are defined specifically under RERA as real estate agents, and these agents also have a big role in the buying and selling of units. That's why they've been specifically defined, and there are rules and responsibilities that they're given that they can also not entice the buyers or misrep the buyers, give false statements with respect to the project or unit just to make a sale. So we'll discuss their obligations and rules also later. But yes, that is what essentially the definition covers. One more important thing, these real estate agents are required to register themselves with RERA. So if you've, I don't know if you've ever come across, but you can see advertisements that these agents put across, whenever there's let's say a project being developed. So whatever locality agents there are in the surrounding, they will put up in their hoarding that RERA certified or RERA licensed agent. So they have a particular license number which RERA issues them. So they are real estate agents under RERA and they must register with RERA. That is how they are required to adhere to its regulations when dealing with RERA registered projects. Okay, moving on. Next is real estate project. Project is defined as a project involving any development of buildings or even conversion of land into. I remember somebody asking me during the last session whether plots, sale of plots, group housing is also covered. And as I mentioned then also that yes, it is. So real estate project defines project. The RERA Act defines project to cover plots also, but for the purpose of selling to allottees, which I clarified in the last session also when they had a doubt that let's say I own a plot which is more than 500 square meters. Am I also required to register in RERA? No, you're not unless you're planning to sell it to the public at large or you're planning to advertise that plot. So the project includes all the common areas, everything. It's the entire project, all the development works being carried out, the structures, improvements, installations in the project. So it covers everything that is encompassing in the project, whether tangible, intangible, will fall under the definition of projects. This we have already discussed that ongoing projects that have not received a completion certificate by the time RERA had commenced 2017 had also were required to register and comply with RERA. Coming on to the next definition, why this is important, carpet area. So carpet area, I wanted to discuss this definition because in practicality, the definition is different and how it's defined under RERA, there's a very slight difference. So I don't know if you guys are aware about the difference between super built up area and carpet area. So whenever you're going to buy a unit or in a project, let's say you're purchasing a flat, so what builders earlier used to do is that they used to, in the pretext of falsely advertising and enticing the customers, what they used to do is that they used to mention the super built up area as the area of the flat. in the sense that they wouldn't make a bifurcation between carpet area, super built up area, and built up area. So that used to give a very different impression to the buyer in the sense that I will think that my flat is actually that size, but it's not. So super built up area essentially includes your flat size. In very layman terms, I'm trying to explain it to you, and it also includes the common areas. So let's say I, having purchased a flat, I will have, so my super built up area will also include the common terrace, or the common staircase that is attached to my flat, the common lobby that is right outside my flat. So super built up area is that area. Built up area is your basically your flat area, but it so okay. Before I define built up area, let me define carpet area so that you understand built up area much better. Carpet area, the most basic sense is where, imagine the carpet can be laid in your empty flat where there's no furniture. Wherever you can lay the carpet, essentially the floor is your carpet area. So that is excluding the thickness of the walls that are partitioning your apartment, bifurcating your rooms. So the thickness and the breadth of those walls will not be included in the carpet area. But under RERA's definition, carpet area includes the thickness of the walls also. But in practicality, uh, when the in I don't want to say, let's say commercial practice, general market practice is that built up area is your area which includes the thickness of the walls, and carpet area is just the area where the carpet can be laid. But RERA includes within the definition of carpet area that thickness of the walls also. So the net usable floor area of an apartment, excluding the area covered by external walls, of course, because that's outside your flat. Areas under service shafts, exclusive balcony, veranda area, etc. But including area of internal partition walls. So very specifically it has mentioned that the area of the internal walls is included in carpet area. So now under RERA, as I said previously, these builders were completely misusing and misrepresenting all of the areas that they were offering as part of my flat purchase. So the per unit, per square meter cost, if as a buyer I'm buying a flat, that would reduce, right, if the area is larger. So just to entice that, they used to use this, but now RERA specifically mentions that they have to disclose the carpet area and not the, like, obviously they can write the super built up area, but there has to be a distinction, and actual carpet area has to be disclosed to the buyer so that they are aware of what they're paying for, essentially. Okay, moving on, let's come to the duties and obligations of promoters under RERA. First is your registration. So every real estate project above a certain land size and number of units, which we've already discussed in the last lecture, more than 8 units and more than 500 square meters, have to be registered under RERA, the applicable state RERA, before they can continue to advertise or offer to sell the project. So for registration, promoters have to actually submit all the information. That is why registration is also important, because they have to, when they're applying for this registration, they have to submit the sanction plans. Sanction plans are your plans, layout plans that have been sanctioned by the revenue authorities or the development planning authority. So it's government certified. They have to state the timelines for completion. They have to give the land status, as in like whether the land has been acquired by them or not. As if you remember, I told you these were the discrepancies that were happening before RERA came in. They were not even acquiring the land and they were advertising it, offering it to the larger public for sale, the project. They have to also give their past track record, whatever projects they've completed, successfully achieved, whatever timelines under which those projects were executed, were they delivered under the promised possession and delivery timelines, the sale agreement that they're going to execute with the buyers, and all of these details they have to submit for registration purposes so that the public can also access that information on the RERA website. Last lecture, I asked you guys to visit any state's RERA website and check. You can see all these information, all these documents actually uploaded on any project. So if you do a quick Google search, you write any project name which you're aware of in your vicinity, maybe. If I write, let's say, Grand Omax, Lucknow, UP RERA. So it will directly take me to UP RERA's website of that project. I will get the RERA registration number. I can see the uploaded all of these details for at the time of registration which they have to submit. The sanction plans, the if the CC has come, CC meaning completion certificate, if the occupation certificate has come, all the builder buyer agreements, everything has to be uploaded. So that can actually be accessed also by the public. And the intent is to create transparency. So me as a buyer, I'm able to see that yes, my developer is complying with all of these things. Second is disclosure and adherence to plans. So promoters are responsible for full and true disclosures on the RERA portal, as we discussed, including quarterly project updates. So RERA very specifically states that they have to submit quarterly project reports, QPRs, on RERA's website. So every quarter, whatever progress has been done on the project has to be submitted on the RERA portal so that the authorities, including the buyers, can keep track of the progress of the project. They have to adhere to the sanction plans. That is also another intent of uploading it so that they don't deviate from it. Let's say the authority has sanctioned a certain area for as green area in the project. So just to make more money, the builder cannot use that green area to construct another tower and sell 10 more flats. So just to curb these things, the section 11 and 14 under the RERA Act mandatorily require the promoters to adhere to the plans, to the approvals, whatever has been sanctioned. So the designs that they are getting approved from the authorities, they have to adhere to those designs. And the very important provision under RERA is that any alteration in the design, any major alteration, okay, let me change it, any major design planning alterations can be made with only with the consent of more than 2/3 of the allottees. So like if I have made advance payment for my flat and suddenly the developer tells me that okay, the structure of the project has changed and now the society is going to be constructed this way, so that is just that is not giving me a full picture. That's actually betrayal because I don't trust the developer then. Maybe they can change it again. And changes in plans are not possible, and in the design and planning, alterations cannot be done because I, as a buyer, have agreed to purchase a flat on that specific design. And in the explanation of this section, you will see that RERA has clarified that minor changes only require intermission and not actually approval of the allottees. So significant modifications, say what they actually mean is structural modifications. Structural modifications meaning that let's say 3 towers were going to be constructed and now I've decided I'm going to construct 6 towers. So that's a structural modification and it's not a minor change which is happening, let's say, inside the flat units that I've decided, okay, I'm going to, instead of offering, you know, like false ceiling, I'm going to just offer normal ceiling. I'm not going to do false ceiling. So that is a minor change which just requires intimating the allottees. But in that case also intermission has to go. But for any structural and major changes, at least two-thirds of the allottees have to approve it before those modifications can be undertaken by the developer. Then third is no false advertising, very important again. So if any loss or damage is suffered by an allottee due to any false or misleading advertisement, the allottee is entitled to a full refund under RERA with interest and compensation. RERA also holds the promoters accountable for promises that they have shown but not actually achieved. So that's where the brochures come in. Why the promoter is also required to actually give an affidavit, actually attest to the brochures that are going into the public, that they are publicizing it, because it's a commitment. So it's considered that now you've committed, you have to comply with it. So they can't state just for the sake of false advertising and misleading advertising. They cannot state enticing things in the advertising and then not offer it. So this is just to curb that. But again, I remember somebody asking me in the last lecture that, what recourse do I have? The developer is not complying with any of the. So it very specifically, whatever reliefs have been offered to allottees always springs up from any loss or damage, which we discussed in the last lecture also, that if any loss or damage is suffered by an allottee due to that false or misleading advertisement, or in that instance, due to the project not being registered. So there has to be some locus to that, basically. You have to prove that there was some loss or damage suffered by you as an allottee. Then another is limits on advance payments. Now, RERA very specifically mentions that a promoter cannot accept more than 10% of the cost of the apartment or the plot or the building, as the case may be, as an advance or application fee without first entering into a written agreement for sale with the allottee duly registered. So you cannot take any advance without entering into a written agreement, meaning agreement for sale. So what before any sale deed is executed, the first uh, before that, the prior agreement that is executed is agreement for sale, or in case it's a lease deed, so the prior agreement would be agreement for lease. So that is just a holding agreement, that okay, a blocker, that okay, now I've booked the flat, and once everything is finalized, actual sale deed will be executed by the parties when the transfer will be final, full and final. And that sale deed is eventually registered with the authorities. So a promoter is not allowed to accept more than 10% of the cost of the apartment as an advance without entering into agreement for sale with the allottees. And that agreement to sale also has to be registered. In a lot of cases, agreement for sale are unregistered because they feel that buyers are actually not very much aware, and the developers keep stating that it's a this is like a filler agreement. Actual sale deed will happen later, and that is what will require registration. But that's not the case. Your agreement for sale also needs to be registered for you to even use it as an evidence in court, or in RERA in this case, in any tribunal also. Your document has to be registered. Next is quality assurance. So, very common again, developers, just to increase their profits and for cost cutting purposes, using substandard materials in the construction of the towers or the units. So, that also RERA has taken care of. There's a 5-year period under RERA, which ensures that, the period kicks in from the moment that I'm given possession. So I, as an allottee, will have 5 years to actually come back to the developer and claim for any substandard structural defects that I might, because it's not like I enter on day one in my flat and I will realize that, okay, the construction quality is poor. No, new flats always look good, right? So it's over a period of time that you will realize, okay, this is actually not of good quality, what I was promised, let's say. So there's a 5-year period to curb that. if any structural defect or any defect in workmanship, quality, or provision of services is detected within 5 years from handing the possession, the promoter must rectify it free of charge within 30 days of notice. Failing this, the aggrieved allottee is entitled to compensation. In case the promoter does not, the allottee is entitled to go to the authorities, to go to the adjudicating officer, claim the compensation, the damages, whatever loss he suffered. Then we come to financial discipline, project accounting. This also I highlighted, I think I did highlight it in the last lecture, but since we're discussing specific duties and obligations, 70% of the amounts that is collected from the allottees as an advance payment has to be deposited in a separate escrow project bank account, which is to be used only and only for the construction of that project for which the allottees have actually been allotted the flat, and not for any random project. So this, it can only be used for construction and land cost of the project. That's it. So all other operational costs of the project is being taken care of from the rest 30%. So the 70% goes only and only towards construction and land of the project. And whatever withdrawals happen from this account, the 70% account, they have to be proportionate to the work that has been completed by the developer, the promoter in the project, which has to be certified by an engineer, by an architect, and a CA. So all three, RERA very specifically mentions that in your QPR, whenever you're submitting the quarterly progress report, you are going to also attach the work completed, which will be certified by an architect, engineer, and a CA. How much work has been actually completed. That is the proof of progress, which also is backing up your 70% diversion of funds. So if I see that, because this also can happen, right? Let's say I am actually following the 70% rule where I'm depositing the money, advance money taken from the allottees in the separate account, and I'm also using it for the construction, but yet it's not. So let's say I'm out of the 70%, I'm withdrawing a huger chunk, but it's not showing in the progress of my project. Like if I've withdrawn 50% of the 70% amount, the project progress should also reflect that. So to keep that transparency in line, this is where this provision comes in, where they've said that the work completed has to be proportionate to the withdrawals that are being made from this account, and to protect the money of the buyers, basically. Then coming on to the next point, which is timely completion and possession, which is the most important thing why everybody is following RERA, is because of this, that the buyers need the projects to be completed on time and possession to be given on the promised date. So if the promoter is failing to complete the project or is unable to give possession on the promised date, or even on a revised mutually agreed date. So let's say the buyer and the developer have entered into an arrangement wherein they have themselves settled on a new date for possession. Then that becomes my actual possession date. But if I'm not getting the possession by that date, so then the allotee has a clear right to relief, being the refund of the 100% amount that has been paid by the allotee along with interest. So if the allotee does not withdraw, they are entitled for interest every month. So like till whatever month I am not getting, or till whatever date actually I'm not getting possession, till that date I will be getting interest on the delayed period from the promised date till the date of actual possession. The Supreme Court in a lot of its judgments has reiterated multiple times that the Section 18 right to get a refund and interest is the key provision for RERA. That is why the entire act came into being. And it has termed it as an indefeasible right, means that it cannot be done away with. That is an inherent right of the allotee whenever any deadlines or timelines are being breached by the promoters. Then another important duty obligation of the promoter is that they have to execute a registered sale deed in favor of the allottees for the apartment and the plot, and also hand over the title of the common areas to the registered association of allottees. So RERA mandatorily provides that us, the allottees have to also, so whatever proj- uh, project or your society associations are formed, they are formed by the allottees themselves. A lot of you must be residing in societies, so you know what these associations are. So these associations of allottees have to be first registered, and they have to, the developer along with the landowner. So how I was discussing the joint development case, so in case it's a joint development, so the developer along with the landowner will hand over the title of the common areas to this association, because the common areas of the project also need to be handed over, right? If I'm conveying title of the units, which are just, let's say, the flats or the apartments, what about the common areas? Common areas title also has to be transferred, right? Otherwise, it will still remain with the developer, the promoter, and the landowner. So to actually clarify that, RERA very specifically says that title of the common areas also needs to be handed over to this association of allottees or the home buyers association. Okay. So now let's come to the rights and obligations of allottees. So it's not just restricted to the promoters, though very minimum, but allottees also have certain obligations and rights. The most basic and prime ones being that they have to adhere to the payments that are given, the milestone payments that come up in their agreement to sale. They have to adhere to those milestone payments. And why RERA has done that is obviously so that the developer is also not overburdened, because if the developer is setting certain milestones and those payments are not coming on time, it is going to inadvertently delay the construction of the project only, because the money is being utilized towards that. So that is the whole intent. So let's discuss these one by one. First is your right to information. Allottees are entitled to obtain all the information about the project, including the documents from the promoter. This includes the sanction plans, layout plans, any other approvals and licenses uh, that are being approved by any authority, the phase-wise schedule of the project, which phase is completed, the stage at which the project is, whatever provisions they are making for common, just a second, guys. Yeah, whatever arrangements they are making for these, like water, sanitation, electricity, all that information with documents. So I, as an allottee, will have a right to have that information, to get that information rather, from the promoter of the project. Second is your possession. So every allottee has, of course, the right to claim possession of their property on the promised date. So if the project is completed, they also have a right to claim possession of common areas through their association. Project being completed, meaning that if the completion certificate has come, again, that can be checked on the RERA website. You don't have to actually reach out to your promoter. You can just check on the project's RERA page whether the CC has come, which is your completion certificate issued by the town and planning department, which is proof of completion of the project. So if that is in place, I also have a right to claim possession as association of allottees, what we were discussing, to take possession and title of the common areas of the project also. And similarly, once the occupation certificate, so CC will come before OC. Completion certificate comes and then occupancy certificate comes, because between completion and occupation, there might be certain things that are still pending to be done. The project is complete, the units are constructed, but let's say amenities like your water, sanitation, electricity, maybe they are not running in the project right now. And OC is issued only when the unit actually becomes habitable for the allottees to reside in. So once the OC is in place, which is your occupancy certificate, the allottee has the right to even claim possession. And now, right is okay, but they are also required as an obligation to take possession within 2 months of the OC. So if I have been issued occupancy certificate as an allottee, I cannot delay taking possession. It's not like, I can sit and just keep getting the interest for the delayed possession from the promoter just to make money as an allottee myself. So even I cannot get myself tangled into those tactics. I have to adhere to the 2 months timeline, which is given under RERA. From the date of issuance of OC, within 2 months, I have to be given possession, or rather, it's an obligation, I have to take possession. Then, payment obligations. Allottees are also required, as I discussed before, towards the start of this slide, they're required to make timely payments for the purchase of their flat or apartment as per the agreement. Whatever milestones are given under their agreement, they are required to adhere to those timelines. And if they also delay the payments, they are also liable to pay interest at the prescribed rate. The interest rate is always the same. Whatever is imposed on the buyer for delayed possession, same is imposed, whatever is imposed on the promoter for delayed possession, same rate is imposed on the buyer in case of delayed possession from the buyer's side. Okay, moving on. We're going to now discuss real estate agent's role. We discussed the definition of these intermediaries, real estate agents. Now, the agents who are facilitating these deals of RERA registered projects, as I said, have to get themselves registered with RERA. And they are given a license registration number, which has to be quoted in every sale that they're facilitating. So that's how I was referring to how they, advertise it on their hoarding, and they're required to put that registration number in every sale that they're making also, which is actually turning out into a sale and not just marketing of the unit. Then the agents, what are their roles and responsibilities essentially is that they're not to sell or advertise any project that is not registered with RERA. So RERA registered agents will only advertise and sell projects that are registered with RERA and not unregistered projects which do not fall under RERA. They have to maintain records of all the sales that they're making, whatever they're advertising, whatever bookings that they've made till date. All of that has to be kept in a recorded fashion. They have to disclose all the information that the allottee is entitled to. So agents should provide buyers with the project's RERA registration details, approvals, all of that is required. So because they are intermediaries in case the buyer is not able to, because a lot of times the buyer won't even be aware that this information is available on the public portal. So they can use these RERA agents to get that information, the documents essentially. They have to comply with the provisions of law and regulations, refrain from making false statements. These are just guidances that are given under RERA that, real estate agents should actually practice. Like they shouldn't sell flats with malice. Their intent should be honest. They should abide by laws and regulations. And there are penalties, there are fines, which are defined under the Act, that if they're violating these provisions, if they're marketing, let's say, an unregistered project or misleading the buyers, RERA can very well penalize them with fines which can range up to rupees 10,000 per day of default, and can also go up to 5% of the project cost, which is a huge, huge amount. Their registration number can also be revoked and suspended. And again, this is to ensure that they uphold the intent of fair play and the transparency, the intent with which RERA actually was notified. Then the second, coming on to the enforcing authority, that is your real estate regulatory authority. So as I discussed in the last lecture, every state is required to have a RERA, its own authority, real estate regulatory authority to, so like Maharera has, Karnataka has, all the states have their own authority to enforcing for the purpose of enforcing the provisions of RERA. So, what are their responsibilities under the Act? Number one is registration, of course, granting or rejecting the applications of registration of either the real estate agents or the project registrations. Then they also have to, as I said, it's publicly available information. They have to also publish this database of the registered projects and agents for public access on the relevant state's website. Then compliance monitoring, obviously, who's going to monitor whether these 70% funds allocation is actually being used by the developers for the construction and land acquisition of the project, or the QPRs, the progress reports that they're submitting, whether they're actually aligning with the withdrawals of the project. So compliance monitoring, that is one of the huge roles that RERA plays, is that ensuring that promoters update quarterly progress, comply with all obligations. They can issue directions because RERA has been given that power under the Act, that they can issue directions, they can issue show cause notice, they can even revoke a project's registration, but that happens in very minor cases if there's like a significant deviation, or if the promoter has conducted a very material breach of any regulation. So this happened compliance. If you remember, we discussed the case last time. That is when this actually happened, that they had revoked the licenses. Coming on to adjudication of disputes, the next role, very important again, as acting as the adjudicatory body for most complaints. It's only the authority, RERA authority. So any aggrieved person, including a promoter or agent or allottee, because promoter can also be aggrieved with if the allottees are not paying on time, can file a complaint under section 31 to the authority for violations under the Act, or for violations under the agreement that they've executed with the builder or with the allottee, whoever is filing the complaint. And the authority has the power to grant whatever reliefs are given under the Act, like interest, compensation, full refund of the money paid, penalties. So all of that flows from the Real Estate Regulatory Authority. Moving on, next authority under the Act, which can also issue such orders and penalties, compensation, refunds, etc., is the adjudicating officer. So Section 71 provides that for adjudging compensation under RERA, the authority may appoint one or more adjudicating officers. This AO has to be a judicial officer, which is a district level judge. So what is the distinction is that in practicality is that AO is actually the amount, the interest claims or like simple refund cases will be decided by the authority itself, but in case it involves assessing the compensation. For let's say the buyer is claiming that they suffered a lot of mental harassment during this entire process, the project has been delayed for over 10 years, and whatever they've gone through, they've worked overtime, they've not been able to keep up, and they've put all their life savings, and if all of that also comes in, then and if heavier damages are involved, then that is the minor distinction between RERA and adjudicating officer. That is when your adjudicating officer comes in. Okay, so there's a new tech judgment which we will discuss in our next lecture, which has clarified that the regulatory authority can decide on refunds and interest, and only questions of quantification of compensation require the AO. So any refund or interest, as I said, simple cases of refunds and interest where they're only seeking that can be very well done away with RERA, just the authority. AO steps in more complicated cases where it has to be where the damages are for other things also, and the compensation actually has to be quantified for like mental agony or whatever they are suffering. Coming on to the next authority, which is established under the Act, is your Real Estate Appellate Tribunal. As the name suggests, this is an appeal tribunal. So each state will has its own REIT, which is established under Section 43. So if any allottee or if any party rather, can be a promoter also, is aggrieved by any order of the RERA authority or the adjudicating officer, they can appeal to the tribunal, which is your REIT, which is basically chaired by, again, a judge, and they will have technical and administrative members also as part of the tribunal who are going to issue directions and orders to either overturn the authorities or AO's decision, modify it, or confirm it. Now, there's a very interesting explanation note that RERA provides is that promoters have to first deposit at least 30% of the penalty or the total amount to be paid to the allottees, whatever the allottee is claiming. So let's say the appeal has been filed by the allottee in this case. This applies only to those cases. So promoters have to first deposit 30% of whatever they are claiming, the penalty or the total amount to be paid to the allottees before their appeal is heard. So this has been done to prevent misuse of appeal to delay payments. They can in turn be appealed to, and also, so REIT orders can also be appealed to High Court, and then all your civic remedies flow in. From High Court, you can even go to Supreme Court, depending on your matter. Yes, so I think that is it for today. Now we can start with the questions. Whatever questions you guys have, we can quickly discuss.
Ashra, I have a question. Can I?
Yeah. Please go ahead, Vijay Lakshmi. Yeah.
I just wanted to know that times when possession is given without obtaining the occupancy certificate as well as the completion certificate, the onus of the liability of that rests on the builder, or is it also on the allottees who take the possession? Because sometimes out of desperation, you do take the possession. So
No, so the onus will always be on the promoter in that case, because it's a very serious legal as well as a regulatory like non-compliance and violation of law, because that is actually in the eyes of law endangering the life of a lottee. So the promoter has to ensure that the structures are firstly strong enough, because if you're giving possession, if you're allowing allottees to actually enter into the units without obtaining OC and CC, then that is endangering their lives. So OC and CC flow in from that intent that the authority who are issuing the OCs and CCs, the development and planning authorities, they are ensuring, the engineers have ensured with certain certifications that these structures are now habitable. So the onus will always be on the promoter.
So my second question stems from the first one, being that sometimes out of sheer desperation and delayed giving of the possession, allottees out of no option just take it, right? What happens then as far as the property tax or maintenance is concerned for all these things?
See, property tax essentially only starts flowing once the project is even running in the eyes of the authority, running in the sense that it's complete and it has, so your association of allottees is formed. So your project is also going to be registered in the revenue records, which are the state records, wherever district records where your project is located. Correct. So that. And sorry, what was your question?
My question is that when these things, sometimes it just happens out of frustration, one goes and occupies the premises, and there is, of course, no maintenance because there is no society form. So I'm
The
coming from there.
property tax you were saying, yeah.
Property
So the
tax as well
yeah,
as
so
maintenance
property tax, but
and the maintenance.
so that's what I'm saying. So see, if OC and CC are not in place, firstly, तो आपका association of home buyers ही नहीं बनेगा. Okay, so maintenance and all of that,
नहीं
which
बना.
so the association is required to take care of that. So that charges will only not flow. Firstly, there's no onus on you to pay because in the eyes of law, the project is not yet habitable. It's not complete, and nobody can reside in that project. So let alone pay property taxes. And the law very clearly specifies that until the title is transferred, the owner, the previous owner, shall only until the title is final and a registered deed is executed, the previous owner is only liable to pay any property taxes. So if your project is not received OC and CC, so till that time, the developer must have been paying your IDC, EDC charges, including land tax charges. So that will continue to be paid by the developer only until the actual OC and CC comes in, and post that the sale deed is executed, and that basically, yeah, just to answer your question.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, Abhishek.
Yes, ma'am. My question is that, like you said, agreement for sale is a requirement before any buying or any by before giving that advance payment of 10%. Like, yes, ma'am. So it is generally issued by the RERA only, like that agreement for sale format and all. Otherwise, it can be a builder side format or something like that. So that is basically generated from the RERA site, no, ma'am. That
Are you? Yeah,
yes,
so for agreement for sale also RERA. Otherwise, see, the whole intent goes away. If they're giving format for sale deed and not for agreement for sale, then again,
yes, ma'am.
that's in fact the first document which is recording the primary terms on which the buyer and the seller have agreed to enter into this arrangement. So that format is also provided under RERA.
Yes, ma'am. My question is that, ma'am, it actually contains one clause in that it can be enhanced or it can be changed or it can be modified if required. So, ma'am, if there will be any further grievance or any clauses added without any consent or anything is altered to that agreement which is not mentioned, but that clause has been already added. So if any person is getting aggrieved for any reason, ma'am, then that person can seek uh, wh- to whom that person can go, ma'am. Like if it's there, she.
The authority, real estate regulatory authority, the RERA authority.
Okay, ma'am. But
Yeah.
it's kind of
But to
thing, no,
answer
ma'am.
your question, the promoter in the first place cannot alter or deviate from the model agreement that has been provided under
Okay.
RERA, has been prescribed by the particular state RERA. So every state's RERA will have its own slightly modified version of this agreement for sale from the
Yes, ma'am.
centralized. So they cannot, in the first instance, firstly deviate from the clauses, okay, except to
Yes,
the
ma'am.
extent permitted by the, so RERA rules permit certain modifications only and
Yes,
only
ma'am.
if such changes do not actually dilute the rights of the allottee. So only then that can be done. The
Okay, ma'am.
alter.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, ma'am. I want to do internship in Luthra and Luthra under real estate team. I also sent you LinkedIn request and wanted to share my CV, but your LinkedIn is premium one, so I can't able to send my CV and cover letter. So how can I apply for the same?
You can reach out to the HR at Luthra who takes care of internships. Yeah, so the ID of the HR would be hr@luthra.com. So you can reach out, drop an email to the HR, and whenever there's an opening in the real estate team for the intern, and if you're matching the requirement, I'm sure she will reach out to you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, I had a doubt. So, you said that for major changes, there has to be a required, like approval is
Approval.
required from two-third of the allottees or more than two-third of the allottees. So, if they don't give the approval, in case they refuse it, is it allowed for a promoter to challenge the same?
The promoter cannot make any alterations and then they cannot challenge. What they can do is that they can call for a meeting of the allottees and they can try to, because they do these unofficial meetings, they will send out invites and they can try to convince the allottees that, so and so is in your favor and this is in the favor of the project, this is how you will get better returns out of the project. But it cannot happen in any case without the approval of the allottees.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Dasha.
So I had a question. There are two kinds of certificates like BCC and CC. So are they the same thing or do they differ?
I'm sorry, BCC and CC.
Yes. So are they different or are they the same?
Ma'am, she
I
wanted to talk about the completion certificate or
Okay, so no, that's OC. What's BCCA? I'm not aware of. I'm sorry. What's B? Completion certificate is CC. The other one is occupancy certificate.
No, so I heard of another certificate called building completion certificate. So
Oh
is it
yeah, that's the same. Okay, building completion certificate is same as CC only.
okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
But CC is a convention certificate, no, ma'am. CC? CC is a commencement certificate, if I'm not wrong.
CC is what?
Commencement to commence the
Mm,
project.
no. CC is completion certificate.
Yeah, sorry, Akshay, can I come in?
It's
I
not
have a
an
question.
building.
Yeah, yeah, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. You.
Madam, hello. Hello.
Yes. Uh,
Madam, yesterday you were saying that phase-wise RERA registration is compulsory. But
yeah.
none of the developers, they display project-wise certificate number and all.
What's your
Secondly,
question?
secondly, I would like to know about the transferable development rights, TDR.
Transferable development rights is a completely different concept, which is, yeah. So, transferable development rights is, are you asking this generally or are you asking it under,
In the perspective of RERA only, in some of the states,
yeah, so
builders
we will
have
take
to.
up in our lecture. It's a very huge, detailed concept, which I can't wrap up right now.
Okay, and one more thing. Yesterday you were saying
Yeah.
on phase-wise registration.
Yes, so I wanted to
RERA
ask you, what's the question? The developers are not
The
doing it
question is that
registration,
none of
but what?
the builder, they will display that so and so project, even DTCP also, they will register for the entire project.
They have?
They will register for entire project, not for the phase manner, no. DTCP means Directorate of
I know,
Town
I
and Country
know.
Planning.
Yes, so you're saying they
They
are
will
giving
issue
for,
certificate. They will issue certificate for the entire project. Even RERA, to my understanding, they will issue for entire project. But
see,
yesterday you are
entire
saying,
project RERA registration is different and
okay,
phase-wise RERA registration is different. So you are confusing two concepts. Phase-wise registration is different from the RERA registration number that is given to your project. That is different.
normally they
That
print in the brochure. Builder, they will print in the brochure, RERA registration
in
number
the
so and so.
yeah, so in the brochure they will only give you the project that the project is RERA registered. Phase
Not
wise
for the phase.
registration, yeah, so phase wise registration is different. That is you're getting RERA registration for each phase of your project.
Now, how do I know whether the phase-wise registration is taken or not?
You go on the RERA website and check it.
Okay. Simply we can't go by brochure registration number, no, that RERA number. Where to get into more.
So see, that's a very generic question because the developer, I don't know which developer is publishing what on which brochure, but on the brochure, project RERA registration number will always be there. I don't know if they're also mentioning in your case the phase-wise number because some developers do it and some don't. But for that, you can definitely check out the RERA website that gives you
Let us
phase-wise.
assume a scenario. There are 5 blocks or 6 blocks in a particular project. In the initial stage, he has taken up three blocks, development of 3 blocks. So whether he has to take up registration for 3 blocks initially.
Okay, so let me just clear it to you. So see, if you have a RERA project, so a RERA project registration refers to any project that is required to be registered under RERA, being two conditions which we discussed: 500 square meters से ज़्यादा होना चाहिए area या 8 units से ज़्यादा होना चाहिए. So
Criteria.
that, yes, so that's your RERA project registration, which is compulsory, okay, before advertising, selling, booking. So that is just one single RERA project registration. And that applies if the project is being developed at once. So only one registration is needed if it's not developed in phases. So a standalone, let's say, apartment complex with just 10 flats will have one RERA project, one registration. That's it. Then your phase-wise RERA registration is where larger RERA projects are being developed in different phases as per the approved. So what happens is let's say my project spans over 500 acres and it has 10 towers. I have divided it into phase 1, launch, phase 2, phase 3. So they are not going to move to phase 2, 3, launch only one if phase 1 has not achieved the approvals and the licenses. So they will apply for these sanction plans, layout plans that I was speaking about only for phase 1, and they will get the RERA project registration also for phase 1 because see, I hope you understand that for larger real estate projects, even the developers are not going to start developing all the towers together. They do it in phases. So for larger projects, it's phase-wise registration. That's why the phase-wise registration concept came in, that because the developer will also not have that much resources that they start developing all the huge projects together. All the towers are being developed at the same time. They're going to do it in a phased manner. So each phase is treated as a separate project under RERA.
And one more
Ma'am,
thing, DTCP
just
registration
hold
is
on, just
also
hold on,
mandatory.
Ravija, just hold on.
DTCP registration is also mandatory before registration by.
I can't hear you. Your voice is breaking.
Madam, DTCP registration is mandatory or a prerequisite before registration by the RERA authorities.
I'm not sure about that. I'm sorry. I'm not aware about DTCP registration. What does that mean?
Hello.
Are you talking about the license?
Town and country planning,
Are
madam. Whether
you?
it is
I know
mandatory
what
requirement before
DTCP is.
registration.
What registration are you talking about? I know what DTCP is, sir. What
Madam,
registration are
DTCP,
you talking about? DTCP
DTCP approved
gives you
layout.
the license. DTCP approves the layout plan. So what registration exactly are you talking about? The sanction plans, the licenses?
Unless it is approved by the DTCP, RERA will not register the project. Am I correct or not? My
Of
understanding is
course,
correct.
sir. Of course. That's what I explained in the lecture, that you have to submit the approved sanction plans, which are approved by DTCP, correct? For your registration. How are you going to get that registration if you're not submitting those documents?
Akshara, hello.
Yeah.
I do have a
I
question
am
that.
running short on time, guys. So
Okay.
this
So,
will be the last question, okay? Yeah.
no issues, no issues. How do RERA act actually? They act suo moto when they find any anomaly in a project, or they only act on basis on complaint.
No, they have both powers under that. They can also take suo moto cognizance. They can all, and of course, with
So how
complaint, so
actually?
they have to.
Who watches all these compliance actually?
Sorry?
Who monitors these compliances actually?
Which compliances? Who monitors, as in RERA monitors the compliances that developers have to undertake?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Can you please provide clarity about the buyers association which you said, and the common area, the passage and all, the ownership title with regard to that? Like who owns that after the project is completed? Like is it
So
transferred to the?
common areas, no. So common areas is owned by the association of allottees or the association of home buyers that has been formed. Common areas is not owned by you as a flat buyer.
Okay, okay. Yeah, ma'am. So
So
it'll be
guys,
transferred
that is sorry.
to
Yeah.
the association, right?
Sorry.
So the passage and all will be transferred to the ownership of association.
Yes, yes. So the developer will transfer the title to the association that has been formed. So, guys, I think that is it for today's session. I have to drop off. Whatever questions you have, we can take it up in the next lecture, which is scheduled for tomorrow only, I think.
Thank you, Akshara.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
अगं ठीक है कर तुम बहुत देर से टीवी सुनते हो पूरे दिन मैं टीवी टीवी की आवाज आती है तुम्हारी दिक्कत के दिन है ना। मैं सोच रही हूँ डिस्कार्ड कर देती हूँ कुछ कपड़े। डिस्कार्ड करना है दीदी, कुछ कपड़े डिस्कार्ड करना है। कौन लेना? गजब, जब मेरा किचन होगा ना ओपन किचन है, तो मैं ना एक साइड में बहुत लंबी अलमीरा बनवाऊंगी। ये किचन की पार्टीशन वैसा मत करना, वो पुराना हो गया वैसा। जो वुडन वाले उसमें करवाना, उसकी क्रॉकरी यूनिट से करवाना। तो बाहर साइड बाहर तरफ क्रॉकरी यूनिट कर लेना तो वो अच्छा लगेगा। वही करूँगा और उसमें लाइटिंग करवाऊंगी अंदर क्रॉकरी यूनिट में। थोड़ा किचन अच्छा करवाऊंगी। ये क्या है, तो मैंने अब इसने क्या किया ना, इसके गर्लफ्रेंड ने उसने अपना रेंटल पर्पस से किया, वो क्यों पैसे इन्वेस्ट करती। मैं सो रही हूँ जी, मैं सो रही हूँ। दूध रखा है खुला? क्यों?
ये वो बंदा बोल रहा है उसने 4 बार बैठ के मसाले कुलचे खाया था। और रेफरेंस ये वाली भी है कि for the body material analysis and the shift right. तो अगर मसाला कुलचा कोई होगा
हाँ कोई नहीं मैं खा लेती हूँ या रात में हमने मसाला कुलचा खाया है तो इस बार लॉल हो गया बेचारे तो हम क्लिप रिकॉर्ड कर ली मैंने तो मैंने ना एक्चुअली शायद वीडियो में डाला था कि मसाला अच्छा है पर खाने वाले को क्या इससे मैं छोड़ बट यार देखते ही याद आ गया पापा को टी टाइम अभी मैं ऐसे ही बैठी हुई थी एंड मौसम इतना अच्छा हो रहा था तो मैंने मम्मी को बोला कि चलो घूमने चलते हैं तो अभी मैं और मम्मी शायद घूमने जा रहे हैं पता नहीं शॉपिंग पे जाएंगे सामान की तो देखते हैं घूमने कहीं घूमने जाते हैं तो ये मम्मी को लेके आ गए बोला मम्मी आ जाओ हेलो तो मम्मी को बोले कि मुझे जबरदस्ती उठा के ले गए अच्छा है करिश्मा तो निकल गए यस हाय एवरीवन वेलकम टू अनदर ब्लॉग मम्मी मैं थोड़ी सी बोली कि आप कर लो मेरे को ऐसा डर लग रहा है नहीं नहीं आज ब्लॉग में सुबह करेंगे आज चैनल आज चैनल हाईजैक हो गया हाँ और मम्मी को भी हाईजैक कर लिया है हम जा रहे हैं ऐसे मौसम अच्छा हो रहा था तो थोड़ा घूमने फिरने जा रहे हैं आज हमारा लेडीज डे आउट है और हम इंजॉय करके आएंगे और इस टाइम प्यारे से रेस्टोरेंट देखा है तो मैंने प्लान करा मैं मम्मी को वहां भी लेकर के जाऊंगी अभी मम्मी को बताया नहीं बट वहां भी लेके जाऊंगी आपको बहुत प्यारा है बहुत एक्साइटिंग है ओके चले अभी हम जस्ट कैब से उतरे हैं और हम आगे बहुत दूर पहुंच गए हैं मम्मी यस इनकन्वीनियंस हो गई है हम जनपद पहुंच तो गए पर हम जनपद पहुंचे नहीं क्यों बताओ क्यों क्योंकि हम बहुत आगे उतर गए तो अब हम वॉक करके जा रहे हैं सड़क पे ताकि हम अपने थोड़ा एक्सरसाइज फील और हाय नहान हो गई एंड वी आर समथिंग अभी पता है हमारे नाइट डाइटिंग जैसे हम कोई भी स्नैक करते हैं ना तो वो बांटते हैं देखो मैं और मेरे मेरी मम्मी और मैं वही करती हूँ और मैं पहली बार आपको बात कर रही हूँ हमारा भी बहुत हो गया हम 10% हो गए हम पहले खाते थे मैगी ये वाली मेरी फेवरेट थी व्हाट आप खाओगे नहीं मेरी फेवरेट चीज नहीं पति नहीं है तो बाय द वे हम मैं शॉपिंग कर रही हूँ बहुत सारे कपड़ों के लिए बनाने के लिए वापस थोड़ी जा रहे हैं अभी करने हैं अभी मम्मी को हम सुला के कराने निकले हैं अभी हम आगे जा रहे हैं कुर्ती देखेंगे मैंने मम्मी को बोला कि व्हाइट कुर्ती लेंगे तो मम्मी व्हाइट कुर्ती ढूंढ रहे हैं मेरे लिए बर्थडे पे वो हाँ तो आंटी के ब्लॉग्स हम लोग देखने लगे बोले बढ़िया ब्लॉग्स है मेरी मम्मी की फेवरेट है पूरे टाइम हम लोग देखते रहते थे अच्छी बात है क्योंकि हमारे फेवरेट थैंक यू गाइस थैंक यू मम्मी को भिजवा के लिए हमारे लिए टॉफीज हमारी मम्मी कैसी है हाँ बढ़िया मम्मी मुझे बता रहे हैं कि मम्मी पोटली के साथ आई है तो मैंने बोला पता चला तो मैं उनको बताती हूँ तो शादी को और पोर्चुगीज में कैब ले ली है तो चलेंगे अभी फिर आना हमारा हाँ हम अभी इवन फिर अगर हम बहुत लेट होते हैं तो फिर हम ट्रैफिक में फंस जाएंगे मैंने यही सोचा कि बिफोर कि फिर ऑफिस का टाइमिंग स्टार्ट हो जाएगा ना हम अभी हाँ आफ्टरनून के ब्लॉग में पूरा सरगम का सेट भरा हुआ था एंड अभी भी हम चाहते थे लंच क्या जय जय मुझे तो मतलब वीडियो बनाने का मन हो रहा था बट मैंने बोला बारिश हो रही है और मैंने पिछली बार जनवरी में टाइम देखा था एग्री के मतलब गाइस मैं एग्जांपल दे सकती हूँ एक्सचेंज ट्रांजैक्शंस अगर आपको एग्री के मतलब अच्छी लगी तो देखते हैं बिल्कुल मत लेना कुछ भी जब तक कंफर्टेबल नहीं है आपको उसको बाय डिजाइन नहीं लेके पॉसिबल नहीं है नेक्स्ट आगे रियरा इज ग्रेट एग्री के ऊपर रियरा इज ग्रेट मतलब लाइक नहीं ब्लॉग अच्छा लगा तो कमेंट में बिल्कुल मत भूलना लाइक करना एवरीवन Kanishka, the wedding ceremony starts. Usually, a wedding is a special moment in initial stage. Okay, we start discussing the social elements पहले तो मैंने सोचा इस गिफ्ट को तो मैं अवॉइड किया जाए इसलिए मैं चली गई अंदर पहनती हूँ केयरफुली गिफ्ट अगर कुछ ऑप्शन देती उसने मुझे हेयर टॉस बोला जेंटल से फिर मुझे ट्रस्ट हो गया कि वो बहुत जेंटल थी तो मैंने उससे कुछ बातें वजह तो मैंने वो गिफ्ट को रखा ऐसे में तो तनिष्का बहुत अच्छी लगी थी उससे कोई टेंशन नहीं था फिर कुछ चीज़ों की थी क्लॉथिंग की इनिशियली तो मैं और कृषिका दोनों साथ शॉपिंग नहीं कर रहे थे इस बार वो बोल रही थी तो मैंने सोचा मेरी चॉइस सबसे अच्छी थी इसमें मुझे थोड़ा सा क्लॉथ की वजह से थोड़ा सा डिफरेंसेस थे पर अल्टीमेटली मैं और तनिष्का ने डिसाइड किया कि नहीं वेडिंग में सरप्राइज देना है तनिष्का का Hello everyone. So I'm wearing Reera Jewelry. मिला नहीं तो सोचा सोच लो इसका तनिष्का का वेडिंग Hello everyone. Let's get the business. मिला नहीं तो Honestly, my face is so bad. This wedding was just आज मैं आपको दिखाती हूँ कि मॉलिक्यूल में अपना कैसा दिखता है, अल्ट्रासाउंड में बहुत सुंदर दिखता है। ये आपका बोर्ड है, ये कौन सी मॉलिक्यूल बता रहा है, यस, तो ये है आपका न्यूक्लिक और इसमें सिर्फ लिपिड है। आज मैं आपको दिखाती हूँ मोलर एसोसिएशन। you.